I'm Josh Rosing. This video is about Dungeons & Dragons and a new method of skill challenge loosely inspired by clocks from Blades in the Dark, degrees of success from Fate, and raises from a number of other systems. This system should also be usable with other RPGs as well. You would just need to make some modifications to the actual mechanics. For those of you who are not familiar with skill challenges or want a more detailed explanation of some examples of play, I have another video, link somewhere here are on that topic that you may want to watch first, though it's not totally necessary. At this point, many of us in the D&D community and beyond are familiar with the standard idea of a skill challenge. You need X amounts of successes before Y amount of failures to achieve a goal in a more cinematic, fast-paced scene. This works great for chases, certain less dangerous combat scenarios, and perhaps surviving an environmental hazard. However, this classic structure isn't always what we want, and the stark contrast between success and failure can lower player creativity in selecting which skill to roll. As a solution, I introduced a system to my games that can be used alongside or in place of skill challenges in certain scenarios. I call it the threat meter. The threat meter is a sort of meta-knowledge scale for the table that helps ensure everyone's on the same page with the stakes. It also encourages creative thinking and risk-taking by providing chances for success at cost and player choice in failure outcomes. The ones I've made have 6 levels, though you could reasonably set any number of levels depending on your scenario. I've come up with 3 generic threat meters which I'll share. One for stealth, one for investigation, and one for environmental hazards, and I modify these depending on the situation my players find themselves in. For this example, we can use the stealth threat meter. Let's imagine our party needs to sneak into a guarded castle, steal an item from its vaults, and get out. In a typical skill challenge, we might say that the first 2 failures they get cause some trouble, but do not result in total failure, and the third is the final key point at which, for this example, they get caught. Using the stealth threat meter to track failure while the party rolls their skill checks as they move through the castle means that failure is more malleable, and the players get more options to make up for lost ground or aspects of their failure, and can have a more meaningful partial success to their mission. For the purposes of this example, let's say that the castle guards are expecting something to happen. They don't know what that might be, but something's afoot tonight. This places us at a starting threat level or rank of 1, suspicious. The guards are going to be a bit more suspicious than usual today, but aren't changing their plans just because of a rumor. When the party tries to get through the gates by hiding in a wagon load of straw headed for the stables, the chief instigator rolls a check, probably stealth or deception, depending on how they describe their actions, just as they would normally. However, the results of this check will greatly affect the ongoing mission. For now, let's say that one person has stayed outside to deceive the gate guards into letting them in. The check isn't likely a hard one, but the character isn't a good liar either. They make their roll and just barely miss the DC for success. Under normal skill challenge rules, that would be a failure. However, in this system, the player has to make a choice. They can find another solution, meaning the attempted action failed and has been determined it cannot work, or they could succeed with complication. The attempt succeeds, but the DC of future checks will increase as a new complication arises. Knowing that failure of this check will prevent the party from continuing in their mission, the player opts for succeed with complication, and the GM decides that while they get in, they are going to be covered in straw when they get out, making them more suspicious, and the DC for future checks goes up by 1. Next, the party needs to get from the stables into the castle. Their mission is to find a relic hidden deep in the castle's dungeon. They know they need to go down eventually, and that where they're going is likely to be well guarded. Best to stick to servant entrances if they can help it. They succeed their next check or 2 to pass through the kitchens without arousing suspicion and get directions to the dungeons. They finally arrive at a door which seems like it might lead to where they're going. However, it's locked. Fortunately, someone has some thieves' tools on hand and tries to pick it. This time, however, they get a distinct failure. Sometimes there's just no sneaking by with well-timed success. However, the player still gets a choice in the outcome. Even with a true failure, they once again get to decide whether to say that the lock is just not pickable and they need to find another solution, or they can say that while they've failed this time around, they can keep doing it, but now time is against them and they increase the tension, once again meaning the DC of all future checks goes up by 1. Regardless of those choices, their failed attempt means that the guards are more alert to their presence. While it may not be that the action they attempted directly resulted in this, something else might have. Perhaps at just this moment, a servant reported some strangers went through the kitchens earlier, or perhaps there's some other reason for it. Whatever it is, the guards are now on alert. After another attempt, the party gets into the vault and a few rolls later finds the item they needed and begin their escape. However, with all these guards around, it's going to be awfully hard to escape undetected. One of the party gets the idea to bribe a servant to tell the guards that the people that had come in earlier, the party, have all left, hoping to tone down the difficulty. They succeed, and the tension decreases by 1, reducing the DC of future checks. Now, this scenario went pretty well, all things considered. Depending on the needs of the scenario, you might choose to say that the party fails its mission if they reach threat level 4 or even 3 rather than 6. But if the party can get away with anything but death or capture, then they might not even fail if they hit threat level 6. In fact, in this case, being caught could be a way to reduce the threat level, kill or incapacitate enough guards, and the search in the immediate area might die down just a bit. If anyone finds those guards, you have another problem on your hands. In some cases, your players may find themselves quickly going from good luck to bad. This is where the raises I mentioned come in. Each time a player succeeds by 5 or more on their check, the party earns a raise, and they gain an additional raise for every additional 5 by which they beat the DC. Any number of raises can be spent before rolling to gain a +1 bonus on the check per raise spent. Alternatively, the players may spend 5 raises to automatically lower the threat level by 1, though they must describe how this could plausibly happen. I've left a link to a written guide to the system in the description, along with the example threat meters. I hope this video has been useful and that some of you will try it out in your own games. I think the general ideas in this system are fairly well understood by most experienced GMs, but sometimes it helps to have a solid mechanic to guide the narrative. While we could all do all of the things I described on the fly, it's nice to have the underlying structure laid out to reduce the stress in the moment, especially given all of the other things we have going on as GMs. Plus, this actively grants players a small portion of direct control over the narrative in a meta sense that D&D doesn't usually provide. Let me know if you've used the system or do something similar already in your own games and how that turned out in the comments section. If you want to support me and get something extra in return, go check out my work on DriveThruRPG. I currently have one class up there for 5th edition with another on the way, as well as a few pay what you want NPCs and monsters that I'm releasing each month. See you next time.